Hey guys, welcome back to Paper Made Me Do It. This spread in my Hobonichi Cousin Avec is for the 4th and 5th of March, and I did complete the 4th. I just kind of prepped ahead on the 5th because I actually filmed this on the night of the 4th. So I started out with this kind of messy little scalloped border around the edge of both pages. I went in with a Pigma Micron PN, which stands for plastic nib. And I really like using these pens because they're just easy to use and they're also waterproof and archival, which is nice. So then I'm going in next with a couple Zebra mild liner highlighter brush pens and doing some hand lettering for the days of the week. Starting out with Wednesday in just a block print font. And these are similar to the Tombow dual brush pens. They have a fairly large nib on the end, but it's also pretty firm, very similar to the Sharpie brush pens that if you've watched any of my previous journaling videos, you know I love the Sharpie brush pens. So these give a similar result to that. They're just a little bit less opaque and more like a highlighter finish. Now this washi has numbers on it, and each number has tiny little perforations between, so it's easy to tear them off. I just laid those down on top of the dates on each page, and then I'm going back in with that Micron pen to draw the weather. And we had an unexpected and crazy hailstorm on the morning of the 4th, so I went in with a gray highlighter brush pen and hand lettered the words hailstorm. Now this printable came from Cheyenne Barton's Patreon, and I had a co-worker bring one of my favorite cakes to work that day, and we all shared a piece, so that was why I chose that printable. Did a little journaling out to the side with the same pen, and I'm just going in with this art glitter glue that has the needlepoint tip to put some glue on the back. I love that fine tip. You can really get close to the edge of whatever you're trying to glue down. And that's the only printable I used on this page. Now, this is a little sketch that I did for the Hobonichi challenge. The prompt for this day was passenger pigeon, and I had absolutely no idea what that was. So I went to trusty Google and found this really pretty picture in Google Images, just printed it out to use as a guide. And if you've ever made a video or tried to edit a video before, you will appreciate my excitement. I was so proud of myself for getting this down to 13 minutes because this spread actually took an hour and a half. It's crazy. But spending that amount of time is obviously not necessary, and I very rarely do that. But I just kind of got lost in this sketch and thoroughly enjoyed myself. So because the time is drastically reduced, you'll see that I kind of took out a lot of sections, and I did speed this part up to 2x. So what you're seeing now is happening basically twice as fast as it was in natural time. But I just really took my time and had some fun with this. So I'm going in with an older Hobonichi pen. This is the Uni Jetstream ballpoint that is like the free pen that comes when you order the planners from the Hobonichi store. This one was from several years ago, but I just happened to have it on my desk and within reach. So it is like a ballpoint pen, and I'm just going in to do the outline with it. And then these are the Derwent Inktense pencils. I love these pencils, and I have no idea why, but I can't tell you the last time I used them. So I'm glad I broke them out again because they were perfect for this project. Several things that I like about these pencils. If you're not familiar with them, I'll kind of give you some of the high points that I appreciate. For one thing, they're so easy to travel with because, I mean, they basically pack just like a regular colored pencil. And you can use traditional brushes and water with them, but what I ended up doing in this spread is just going in with a water brush. So that's really convenient to have for travel or at home. And basically all you would need in addition to that is a paper towel. So it doesn't take much at all. They're quite vibrant. You can get kind of a watercolor effect if that's something that you're into, or just depending on how you lay the color down. You can have like finer lines and a more defined picture, but very little pressure is required. And another awesome thing about them is not only can you do all of your colors like on top of each other for your shading and things like that, but once you activate them with water, they're actually not a watercolor pencil. They are an ink pencil. So once you activate them with water and your project completely dries, it is waterproof. So that's really nice because sometimes if you do water or wet media in the Hobonichi, if there's any media on the opposite side of the page that's not waterproof, sometimes you can get some blurring or fading if you're not careful. I know that's happened to me several times in the past just from, forgetting what's on the opposite side of the page. So I really like the fact that these are waterproof when they're dry. So if you go onto the following page and use wet media again, you don't have to worry about your previous project being ruined. That's probably one of my favorite things about them, and they're just so easy to use. So here's that water brush going in to just activate all those colors. This was such a pretty example to follow, and there was a signature on the bottom right side of this print. It was first initial T, last name Huff. I believe it was Hough. So I did write that underneath the prompt on the bottom left corner of the spread just to give credit. I know sometimes you don't know who to credit for things that you may come across on Google Images, but if there is a signature on an image that I use, I always try to credit if I can. I'm just going into the body here. I had primarily colored it in orange, but used a little bit of red on the edges near the neck. And you can see that everything just blends out so well. And since this was a little more of a detailed look that I was going for, I never, until the very end in the background, I may have squeezed the brush just a hair to get a little more water on that larger background. But on the bird itself, I never squeezed the water brush. So I was using those bristles basically just very damp and not really wet. So there wasn't a lot of water flowing when I was going over the inside of the actual bird drawing. So it takes very little of that pencil, to get some pretty colors, and then very little water to activate it. So I'm just going in now and activating that background color. And that's where I did squeeze the brush just a little, just to kind of speed up that process since it was a larger area. And then I tried to fade the edges just a bit by adding a little more water. And I did not break out my heat gun or my, it's kind of like almost like a hair dryer, but the craft gun. I do like to use it when I'm doing watercolor projects often, because it just does speed up the whole drying process. But this did not take very long to dry at all. I just let it dry on its own, just air dry when I was done. And then while that was drying, I went back in with that Pigma Micron pen and outlined the lettering that I did earlier with the highlighters. Some of the colors are not necessary to do that. They are, even though they're a highlighter and not opaque, some of the darker colors do, stand alone. But that gray in particular, it was pretty light. So I just decided to outline all of it. And then I went in, outlined that little underline. I'm pretty sure I skipped right ahead to, Thursday on the bottom side of the next page. I don't like to do too much decorating ahead. If anything, I have a tendency to be running behind and not prepping a lot of pages ahead. But when I do prep pages ahead, I usually will just write maybe the day of the week. I added that little number sticker. Sometimes I'll break out my office stamp and stamp the date. But I try to do very minimal decorating ahead, just because you never know, what's going to unfold that day. I always wonder, am I going to need just a couple inches of space for journaling, or am I going to need an entire page? So usually if I prep ahead, it's very minimal. But within just a few minutes, that was dry. So I went in and did a little more journaling, and that was it for this spread. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.